You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Branford Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission. This meeting is being held in accordance with Connecticut Public Act 22-3, as well as the inland wetland regulations in the town of Branford. Just some procedural notes for those who wish to address the commission. Please be advised of the following. First, all speakers are required to state their name and title or affiliation each time you speak on the record. If you're participating remotely and your line is muted, please utilize the raise hand feature to be recognized. Materials related to the agenda for tonight's meeting can be found in the town's OpenGov permitting portal and the Wetland Agency's Dropbox. Both are linked in the agenda. And also just for tonight, as a commissioner, I often initiate questions early in the discussion as well as make motions. Tonight, as the acting chair, my focus will be primarily to facilitate a legally sound and efficient meeting. And so I'll look to my fellow commissioners to raise your concerns and offer input first, and I will reserve my own questions and observations until later in the discussion. Additionally, before we begin any applications, I want to take a moment to remind everyone, including commissioners, applicants, and the public, about our legal purview. So by state statute and local regulation, our charge is narrowly focused on the protection, preservation, and regulation of inland wetlands and watercourses, and any land use activities likely to have a significant impact upon them. This commission cannot legally take into consideration factors that fall outside of this scope, such as wildlife, traffic, property value, taxes, etc. And so we will adhere to those standards outlined in our regulations. And so, Jamie, is there any change to the agenda?
Jamie Frederick, and the wetland agent. I will note that 42 Silver Street is going to be tabled.
Okay, great, thank you. And so with that, we will do a roll call. Just noticing one more. Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman, present.
Commissioner Glukowski.
Commissioner Glukowski, present.
Commissioner Papantonis.
Commissioner Papantonis, present.
Commissioner Sotomayor.
Commissioner Sotomayor, present.
Okay. And so with that, our meeting is now in order, and we will begin with the minutes of October 23rd, 2025 for approval. Are there any commissioners that I didn't call? Great.
This is Commissioner Koklowski. For the record, I'd like to state that I did review the minutes from the last meeting that I had missed, so I'm able to discuss anything from that particular meeting from October 23rd.
Great, thank you.
This is Commissioner Begeman. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the regularly scheduled meeting on 10/23/25.
Commissioner Papantonis, second.
Okay, thank you. We have a first and we have a second. Any questions about the motion? All in favor? Would you prefer I do a roll call for each of these?
Preferably, yes.
Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Glukowski.
Commissioner Glukowski, aye.
Commissioner Papantonis,
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Sotomayor,
Commissioner Sotomayor, aye.
and Commissioner Boda, aye. Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to item number 4, the public hearing. This is BRIW 25.10.01, the Chestnut Street Bridge. And before I hand it over to the applicant, I just want to confirm that the commissioners' CVs have been placed on the record.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, they have not. However, we can incorporate that and make sure the applicant receives a copy.
Okay, thank you. All right, and would you like to start us out, or are we ready to jump in with the applicant?
I would say let's hand it over to the applicant.
Okay, good evening, commissioners. My name is Keegan Elder. Can everyone hear me well from WMC Consulting Engineers?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yes.
For the record, again, my name is Keegan Elder from WMC Consulting Engineers. We're a civil engineering firm that was hired by the town of Branford, the owner of this property, to prepare design plans to go out to bid for construction of the replacement of the Chestnut Street Bridge. For this presentation, I'll sort of walk through details of the project, bring everyone up to speed. Feel free to interrupt with any questions as I go along. Can I share my screen?
Be able to let me know if you have any issues.
And share. Is my screen up?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so the bridge located between the Norton Supply Pond over Chestnut Street was built back in 1940. It was inspected and found to be rated a 3 out of 10, which is serious condition. The next step below that is critical and becomes a serious safety hazard and prompting potential closure of this access way. The town engaged us to do a design to replace that structure. The replacement, the existing bridge is a 10-foot span arch type bridge. Like I mentioned, that was built in 1940. The replacement is going to be a 14-foot span, a 16-foot span bridge, sorry, with an arch facade as well. The larger span helps us improve the hydraulic capacity of the structure and also helps limit our impacts to the wetland by being able to overbuild behind the existing structure. If you're familiar with the area, you know that the ponds abut the roadway all around the existing project. So in order to facilitate the replacement of the bridge, we'll be installing temporary cofferdams so that work can be performed in the dry. This project is funded under what's called a state local bridge program. Part of the requirements for that program is DEP, Army Corps, Fisheries, NUDB review and meeting, which was held a few months ago. We have comments from all of those agencies that were incorporated into our design. Before we submit our final Army Corps permit application, we need local wetland sign-off to be included as part of that application. So, as I mentioned before, the project entails a 16-foot span bridge. The bridge is shown, if you can follow my mouse in this area right here. That bridge will include two 11-foot lanes. It will also include a 5-foot sidewalk along the north side. That sidewalk is a safety feature and also a recommendation by Fisheries for fishing platform but something that the town wanted to incorporate as an added safety feature for pedestrians that park on either side and utilize this structure when they go hiking, walking, fishing, or anything like that. So scrolling down to the plans that show the impact areas shaded, our overall impacts to the wetland, temporary and permanent, account for about 2,400 square feet. The temporary is shown in green, and the temporary is generally areas within the cofferdam that the contractor is going to use to access to build our retaining walls and our culvert. I'm going to skip ahead a couple slides to an overall view of the project so that when I go back, you can get a better sense of what features I'm referring to. So this is our bridge in the structure plan view located here on New Bridge. Along the edge of the road, we have retaining walls. Those are seen also below in the elevation view. Those retaining walls help support the level of the existing roadway and keep the water at bay, so to speak. So it's a retaining wall needed for support of the roadway. And those run along the edge of the road as shown here. The existing features or the existing topography out there feature some rocks in some areas, some steep slopes that grass generally doesn't grow, and it's not properly supported, so to speak. But because of our new design and our slight widening on the north side, we certainly have to install a concrete retaining wall to support those. This is a typical section of what the bridge would look like. It shows those two 11-foot lanes that I mentioned, the sidewalk and curb, and then the full height parapet needed for a safety feature for per DOT guidelines. So with sort of that overall view of the structure, one more thing I would show that would explain some of our requirements is our profile, our vertical profile. The dark line here seen is us showing the new proposed roadway to be slightly smoother and slightly higher than the existing, which is in the light gray. This also improves our hydraulic capacity and meets other requirements as far as rideability and geometric improvements for the project. So with that, we'll go back to our impacts. So the temporary impacts, as I mentioned, includes temporary cofferdams going around these retaining walls needed to construct that work in the dry. The contractor will have small equipment in the hole for forming and constructing those wing walls. That's the shaded green area. The shaded blue area is wetland impacts or watercourse impacts that are more permanent. And there's a slight sort of dash for where we have our new wing walls. That's permanent loss, which will be that will play into the overall numbers at the end when we talk about mitigation. But this in general is the work that's necessary for this project. We reviewed a few alternatives to this design. One being a four-sided structure, which would have been one of the cheaper alternatives, but due to the need to create a temporary channel to install that type of structure, the environmental impacts on that structure would have been much more. We also reviewed conventional bridge types with either concrete beams or steel beams versus the three-sided frame that we have now. Each of those structures require a deeper superstructure or riding course, which would mean raising the road even more, thus needing much longer retaining walls and potentially having more sloping impacts, more impacts to the environment further out from the bridge. Obviously, the do-nothing alternative was reviewed, but because of the condition of the bridge, I think we're all in consensus that something has to be done before the bridge is ultimately required to be closed. So we reviewed a few alternatives and ultimately settled on this alternative, which was a blend of cost, environmental impacts, and the structural and hydraulic capacity, and then also meeting all the requirements that DOT has set forth. So some of the other components that I'll talk about that are important to the commission and important to projects in sensitive areas such as these. Invasive species removal. This is something that we typically include for projects, bridge projects, something that the state also has created a specification for that will be included in this project. And we call for invasive removal throughout the limits of all disturbance on this project, shown by the orange shaded area here. In addition to that, we try to include some mitigation, and we try to quantify that as best as we can. The area in the dark orange, due to the widening of the bridge and the construction of these retaining walls, is permanent wetland or watercourse gained. So these areas would all be either new wetland that wasn't there prior or enhanced wetlands due to the construction. The light shaded orange area includes mitigation in the form of replanting, wetland seed mix, and just on this corner adjacent to the entrance to the fields back here, construction of a swale, formalized swale that will drain the existing slopes down into the pond over in this area. Overall, I think our total mitigation and enhancements equate to about 3,400 square feet versus 2,400. We were not able to get a 2-to-1 within the limits of the project, slightly below 1.5 to 1. But as we discussed in the application and some of the documents submitted, because of the confines of the site and the causeway type area, there's not much room or locations around here to add more mitigation into the project. But with that said, we think that we did all due diligence to include as much as we can within the confines of the project scope and the limits of construction. Let's see. With that, I will sort of open it up for any questions and any concerns or comments.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. You're expanding the size of the bridge to what size? From what size to what size again?
We're going from a 10-foot span to a 16-foot span.
And that's on so you're actually white. You're going to widen that particular area. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when you say bridge width, in my sort of nomenclature, that means the passageway for the water. So
Okay.
that is what's going from 10 to 16.
Okay.
When you're talking about roadway width, that is also increasing as well. That is about 21 feet now, roughly 21 feet for existing. It's pretty narrow. We're going to go to 22 feet, but then we'll also add in a 5-foot sidewalk and head walls on top of that. So that is getting wider as well.
Is that sidewalk going to be on both sides or just one side of the bridge?
Just one side, just on the north side. And that sort of ties into the parking areas that you have and some of the trails that go to the hiking ground.
Okay, thank you.
This is Commissioner Begamon. I have several questions. So the area to the to the west of the bridge where you're going to be putting the swale in.
Yep.
That goes all the way from kind of the far left, the uphill side,
Mm-hmm.
and then goes over to the right and goes into the water without cross. So you're trying to stop some of that water from crossing asphalt.
So this will be a formalized swale back here, and it'll all be sort of treated as it comes through here and back down to the pond. Correct.
Oh, and this is Commissioner Begemon again. And those parking spaces that are just below your cursor, they're gravel right now. What is the proposed surface going to be?
The proposed surface is going to be bituminous concrete asphalt pavement. That's currently what's being proposed.
And Commissioner Begemon again, can you just talk about the drainage of that water?
That water, so the center line of the road is the high point, and it pitches to both sides at a 2% slope. So all water across the bridge is going to be, through the project, is going to be pitched to the left side off the edge of the road and to the right side off the edge of the road. Typical sheet flow pattern, which is currently existing there as we speak. So in this parking area particularly, it is going to be pitched off to the side into this swale, in addition to any runoff coming down the hill, and outletted through the natural turf that's established out in this area.
And this is Commissioner Begemon. Maybe I didn't see this. The swale is going to be a grass swale that can be mowed, or is it?
Yes. It will be a grass swale that could be mowed. There's a gate here that they access the field as well, so we didn't want to do something too expansive that would prohibit or inhibit them from getting into that area for mowing and so forth.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, do you mind going to the mitigation plan so we can take a look at that? I think it called out for a mitigation area, wetland seed mix. So is the intention that area will be wet, or that it will drain in between like storm events? And if
I suspect that it will drain in between storm events. Most of the wetland seed mix, I would suspect, would be within this area. We showed mix in here as well. We could do a standard turf establishment being at a higher level, but for now we showed seed mix throughout, and yes, it will drain. It will drain during storm events and then be mowed or maintained after that.
I don't recall. Did you have a specific seed mix called out, or are you leaving rather general?
We have a standard specification for wetland seed mix. I can send that to you if it was not included in the application.
This is Commissioner Begemon, and those darker orange circles in the mitigation area are those are the plants down there that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Elder, this is Commissioner Boda. Is there any infiltration planned for that swale, or you're just looking for drainage? Would it be possible to plan for some infiltration there?
There was not. It's something that we can certainly look into if that's something that the commission would like to see. It was just meant to properly convey the water. It's not formalized now, and there's a small pipe underneath right there. So we're basically formalizing what was existing, improving that area, so to speak. It's relatively flat, but it does have a natural slope or tendency to go towards the pond. And obviously the water table is relatively high as well. That sort of precludes us from doing much from a structural underground style type system as well. So.
This is Commissioner Begemon. Regarding swales and the amount of water that they can handle, this swale will be getting the water from the hill to the left of the parking lot that comes down. Mm-hmm. And it will be getting the water now increased from what the area that was gravel and now is pavement, that 2% grade. Yep. Have there been calculations done about how much water, you know, how can we be sure that that swale will handle the increased runoff? Because having gone there a lot, I know that that area on the left, the area on the left where the water comes down the hill and into the parking lot, that gets really wet there. It moves all the gravel out that they put in. So that's just a concern.
Yeah, the increased flow is small, relatively, due to the paving area. Everything else outside the project remains the same. We are formalizing it and making it larger. If I go to the profile, you'll see that we're only really talking about maybe 100 or 2 feet of roadway where where water is actually pitching towards that area. Everything at the bridge and to the right from a horizontal standpoint goes to the east of the bridge. But we can verify that and let the commission know as well of the capacity of that swale. I don't have that information with me tonight.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. Mr. Elder, do you know what methods are going to be utilized to install the cofferdam?
So generally per the specification, the DOT standard specification, the contractor is allowed to select methods approved by DEP or CONDOT. They include sheet piling, either drilled piles if it's a bonier substrate with lagging, concrete blocks wrapped in plastic, sandbags. But I believe due to the high water table and high water surface elevation and depth of excavation that's going to be needed, that will preclude or limit the cofferdam types to either sheet piles and or drilled piles with lagging in between. I don't foresee them being able to do this with sandbags or dead men. They certainly can't pump this or bypass something that large. But if the commission felt that some of these methods could be too intrusive, I had another project recently where the commission, because of the water table and the high flows, they excluded a few methods like damming and pumping or damming and bypassing. They excluded a few methods that contractors could generally pick from, so that we sort of kept the limits and the impacts to something we're comfortable with.
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. Thank you for that, Mr. Elder. The options may be limited here, but yeah. I know sheet and pile driving can cause a tremendous amount of acoustic pollution. I don't know if there's been any thought given to the impacts that something like that might have to the wildlife there in the vicinity. I'm not sure if you can speak to that.
Yes. So in our coordination with NDDB and Fisheries, they gave us times of work throughout the year. It should be in your packet when we can install and remove cofferdams. For example, the contractor will not be able to install cofferdams between March 15th and June 1st due to the herring that's migrating and some of the spring recreational fishery fishing that's going on. So those limitations are included, and those were considered as part of the design and will be included in the special provisions for the contractor to follow during construction.
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. Thank you for that. That's right. I did read that before in the packet.
Yep.
Can you refresh me what the timeline is when this project, if it's approved, when you guys are looking to start the construction? I know one of the first stages is to install the cofferdam, and those time frames that you guys are not able to do that may kind of coincide with the beginnings of the project.
At the beginning of the project, yes. So as of now, construction is slated to begin next spring. The next steps are to finalize design once we get through the permitting process, submit to the Army Corps, and go out for bid, hopefully in the winter, advertise the project. Once bids are in, there's a possibility that we could start prior to that March 15th no-go zone for cofferdams, or alternatively, the contractor will have to wait until June 1st to install his temporary cofferdams. There are certain things that they can do prior to installing temporary cofferdam. Mobilization takes a couple of weeks. Any clearing may take a couple of weeks. They could remove the deck. They have to order materials, potentially do a test pile, which would be done from the roadway base behind the existing structure. So there are some activities that they can perform, but he won't be allowed to install anything in the wet during the restricted period.
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. Thank you. I appreciate the explanation.
This is Commissioner Goklowski again. In a perfect world, sir, what do you think the time frame is that you wanted to start working on this project and completing it?
In a perfect world, we'll start April 1st, get the contractor awarded, get mobilized, submit his shop drawings, design for review, things of that nature, and it'll be completed at the end of November of that same season. We have a schedule of 240 calendar days, roughly 8 months. It's not a particularly difficult project, with the exception for the handling water, which can take some time. That's going to be the biggest challenge that they'll face. If you got a good contractor who's familiar with this sort of work, they can certainly get it done within that time frame. There is the potential that they run a little bit later, and we're seeing that on a few projects also, depending on the contractor. And what they end up doing is make sure the road is safe and passable, maybe put the first course of pavement down, the binder down, so that, you know, we can have the road open to the public to be able to use it by the end of the construction season. And worst case, they roll into the spring of the following year and do the final pavement course when the temperatures are more conducive to installation of pavement. So, perfect world, everything will be done this year. In perfect world, some ancillary items will leak over into the spring of the following year.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Begamon. Couple of questions just about this structure of that is the bridge, the 10-foot wide. It's open on the bottom, right? It's three-sided, so it's open on the bottom so that the bottom of this structure underwater is natural pond bed or whatever.
Correct. That is correct.
And the depth that it is now is going to be replicated in the depth in the future in terms of what goes under there. I'm just thinking of the fish and the whatever else passes underneath that bridge.
So the existing stream bed material or the existing stream bed elevation is not going to change. That's something else that the regulators requested, as limited disturbance as possible to that natural stream bed. Your existing foundations are unknown, but they're assumed to be shallow. And you may not think it, but our numbers are showing that this structure has a high scour susceptibility because it narrows, and any narrowing of a large water body increases velocities. So in our proposed condition, we'll have piles that go down to bedrock, a single row of piles with a concrete footing on top of it so that the structure is protected for future storm events down the road. But as far as if I were living under this bridge, everything would look essentially the same, just a little bit more room.
And Commissioner Begman again. Thank you. So the room is the width, not the depth of the water.
Correct.
Okay.
Slight improvement to the depth because we are raising the profile a couple of inches, smoothing it out, and trying to maximize the hydraulic capacity. But the real room is that additional 6 feet, 3 on either side of the existing.
And this is Commissioner Begman. The second question is different. It just has to do with erosion and sediment controls. And if you could talk about them, but if there's other commissioners that want to talk about the bridge or whatever now in sequence, that I can wait on the erosion and sediment control question.
I'll go ahead, I guess.
Okay, so can you just point out, I know you have the description of this erosion and sediment controls. Can you just point them out on the site plan where they are and what they're for? Like for stockpiling, for et cetera.
Yep. So we have pumping and settling basins for handling water on either side of the project. That's for when he installs these heavy dark lines with temporary cofferdams and he's doing work within this area. It'll get wet, he's got to pour concrete and do things of that nature. So we have these pumping and settling basins to pump the water, get the sediment out as much as possible before then returning it back to the natural water course. So that's as far as handling water goes. The limits of the cofferdams are these heavy dark lines.
Mr. Elder, can you pause for a minute?
Sure.
I want to make sure I understood. So you're saying that within this cofferdam, the water and the sediment that you're removing will then be replaced with the same sediment and water, or that sediment that comes out with the water is then taken somewhere else for disposal and different water is put back in, or it's just allowed to fill back in?
No, so the sediment, while the contractor is working within the cofferdams, digging and so forth, you'll have sediment and any water that comes in between there. That dirty sediment water is pumped into the pumping and settling basin where the sediment is taken out of the water before it's then returned to the water course. That's shown by these 2 pump and settling basins on either side of the project.
Can you, this is Commissioner Boda again, can you just zoom in?
Sure. So this is the first proposed pumping and settling basin to the east of the project. And another one over on the west side of the project. And the other features of handling water erosion and sedimentation control include the cofferdams that I discussed earlier, which are the dashed dark heavier lines. And then beyond those are silt fence or sedimentation control, erosion and sedimentation control fence that extends from the limits of our cofferdam to the limits of disturbance on all 4 corners. I'll pan out to a bigger view so that you can get a better grasp of that. So on the mitigation plan, I'll start on the southwesterly corner. We have a sedimentation control fence at the limits of construction. It runs around our tire disturbance, including the mitigation area, back around, ties back into a temporary cofferdam, which also runs along this area, back over here. And then silt fence runs along the edge of the channel all the way to the limits of construction on this end. So that's the westerly side of the project. To the east, we have a temporary cofferdam that's enclosed through this area in the dashed dark line. And beyond that, in the dry, we have a silt fence, erosion sedimentation control fence, shown by the SF symbol that runs along the edge of the road to the limits of our timber guide rail and anchorage here. Also along this side, along the north, that runs to the end of our sidewalk and guide rail installation there. So those are erosion and sedimentation control items that were included in the contract. And details were shown in addition to that as per the ENS standard guidelines.
This is Commissioner Begman. So there aren't any stockpiles because you're taking water and sediment out and you're putting it in those pumping and settlement basins.
Yeah.
When all that brick has to be brought in for the foundation of the road and on the bridge, where will that be deposited on the site plan?
So most of that is concrete that's poured. It'll come on a mix-in truck. So that's not really brick. The only material that could possibly come on site and be stored maybe the sub base for the roadway gravel. That would be stored within the limits of his road closure if he has to do a gravel pile, or if there's steel that gets delivered, he'll have the limits of the roadway, which is about 320 feet of roadway reconstruction that we're doing, that will be closed for him to be able to house equipment and material. As far as brick and that sort of stuff, I don't think we have much of that. Yeah, sorry.
This is Commissioner Begman. I was fooled by the little dashes.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Little design of bricks.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about the stockpiling of gravel, and when they take that gravel area of the parking spaces on the left, on the west, and turn it into bituminous, whatever. Is the rest of the road going to get torn up? Is this whole road going to be repaved, or is it just the gravel area?
Oh, it's being repaved through the limits of construction. If you can see my cursor, I'll zoom in a little bit closer. So on the easterly end, the end of construction or the end of repaving is at station 3+60. We do extend the sidewalk a bit further and guide rail. At the beginning of construction or start of construction, we're at station 0+40. So for approximately 320 feet, we're reconstructing the entire roadway structure to be paved, including that sidewalk portion as well over here.
So, Commissioner Begman, again, the removed pavement is going to be put where? What, before it gets taken off site?
The contractor, the dump trucks usually take those off site. As they dig it up, it goes into a dump truck and it's taken away. Some contractors take it to plants for millings, grind it up and reuse it on different sites. But it's the contractor owns it once he pulls it up.
Mr. Elder, I just want to tag on to Commissioner Begman's question. Is that written in the plan, on the site plan, that material will be removed?
No, it is not written on the site plan.
Okay. Okay. we're just going to put a little note, a pin in that to come back to that.
Yeah. Yeah,
We like the details on some of these site plans because we have a history of engineers constructing beautiful plans.
Yep, some of the best plans are laid, and the contractor gets out there, and yep, I've been doing this for 20-something years, and as a matter of fact, I'm a commissioner in my town in Windsor on the Wetlands Commission, and I see the same things and go through the same issues that you guys are dealing with on these projects and most projects, even from other engineering firms. So I do understand the concern, but the stockpile question is a good question. We could add a designated area to the plan, or as you mentioned, we can definitely note that stockpile or any material left on site either is tarped or protected prior to rain events, or removed as soon as feasibly possible. You know, certainly something we can add to improve the plans.
Commissioner Begeman, go ahead. Excuse me for jumping in on your question.
It's Commissioner Begeman. That's what I was just going to ask, whether it was in the description of the project and the timeline and the site plan. So I think for the pavement being removed, best option would be that it's removed the day it's taken up, that it's not stockpiled.
Okay.
And if you said that that's typical, and I don't know if you have and if that's not possible, then definitely because it's a pile of millings this close to the water, is just going to leach right into the water. So I think I would want that it's removed that same day.
Yes, we can certainly note that. Yeah, it is typical though, because the contractor does want the room to work, drive equipment around. So unless it's material being delivered, like is steel for his reinforcement, or formwork or things of that nature, most of them generally like to have access, bring equipment in, move back and forth, move excavators around. And if you have a pile sitting there, it impacts them. But to be safe and secure, I would certainly add a note to the plans that requires that any excavated material is not stored on site and removed due to the sensitivity of the area and proximity to the ponds.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Boda. Are there other commissioners that have any additional questions? Okay, then this is Commissioner Boda. I have just a couple. Earlier, following one of Commissioner Begeman's questions, you had indicated that the subsurface was going to be gravel. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's a process based. Let me see if I have that view here. So this is over the bridge, so it doesn't really show it, but essentially we have the riding course of asphalt, 3 or 4 inches. Below that, you have 6 inches of binder pavement, and then below that we have process aggregate base or gravel. That's usually about 10 inches for this project, based on the easels, the amount of vehicles, pavement loads, and things of that nature. So how it's installed is the road is boxed out, and they install that 8 to 10 inches of process aggregate base or gravel. They roll and compact that. We test that for moisture and compaction, make sure we have a good base. Then they install the binder course of asphalt on top of that, and finally they install the riding course, the top course of asphalt over that. So that would be your pavement structure throughout most of the project. Once you get over the bridge proper, the bridge itself for that 16 feet, you'll not be able to do the full gravel base. So that's going to just entail the asphalt structure.
Okay, and this is Commissioner Boda. Is that binder include asphalt millings?
No, process aggregate base is spec DOT item with aggregate sizes conducive to giving good compaction. There are no millings being proposed.
Okay. And I think just out of an abundance of caution, I think that would be something to, it's on these plans, we indicate what is happening, but I think also just being aware that the target is to not have asphalt millings kind of exposed to precipitation. And so what you've just described sounds ideal. The goal would be to not have it replaced with something else like millings.
Okay, we'll certainly add that note.
This is also Commissioner Boda. In the project narrative, it talks about a proposed freeboard of 1.5 feet. And I'm wondering what the freeboard is now, and that 1.53 feet, if that is a regulated number, if that's a best practice, how you landed on that freeboard.
So the freeboard is what we were able to attain with the structure type selected. DOT practice is that, or law, the law requires that we don't increase the water surface elevation by more than a tenth, either upstream or downstream, because that has insurance implications on properties adjacent to the structure and or adjacent to any structure. So one of the things that we go into design with is based on the watershed or based on the drainage area. Structures are rated either small, medium, or large, and based on that rating, they would say, okay, for this structure, you need to design for the 100-year storm. So we then run our hydraulics for 100-year design flood based on the structure type, and we document and report to DEEP what the freeboard is, any underclearance, all this information gets reported to DEP and the Army Corps, and we do something that's called a no-rise certification that sort of says that, we improved the hydraulics and showed no rise or no increase to the water surface elevation. So this, the 1.53 is just documenting what the proposed freeboard is, which is better than the existing. I don't have the existing number in front of me, but it's an improvement, and it's part of the hydraulic table and hydraulic report that DEEP has reviewed. So that's sort of that in a nutshell. I hope that answered your question.
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there, Jamie, was there anything that you also, I would know that we started with the project engineer. Is there anyone else from the applicant that was going to offer testimony this evening?
No, I am solo tonight.
That's okay.
Yep.
Jamie, is there additional information that you also wanted to bring from the town or anything?
Jamie Frederick in the Wetland Agent. So I will just comment that the town engineer does appear to be on the call. I don't think he was going to present anything. However, if there's any questions from a logistical standpoint, I would defer to him. So I do know we have a lot of fairly new commissioners, so I did kind of want to get a little bit into the mitigation requirements. So anytime that there's direct impact to wetlands, particularly exceeding 750 square feet, the commission looks for some mitigation to help offset the impacts. Another thing the commission often looks for is prudent and feasible alternatives, particularly when there's a public hearing held on the finding that there may be an significant impact to wetlands or watercourses, which was one of the reasons for opening this public hearing. So we did receive a narrative that outlined the prudent and feasible alternative analysis thought process and presented why the applicant believes that this is the prudent and feasible alternative. Usually the commission does look for site plans outlining prudent and feasible alternatives that have less impact. I think this is a unique situation in the sense that the proposal is to replace an existing bridge based on today's design standards. So I think the written narrative is likely sufficient, but I would leave that to the commission to identify if you have any particular concerns regarding that approach. So generally speaking, the requirement is 2-to-1 mitigation. So if you're impacting 1,000 square feet, you need to mitigate 2,000 square feet. There is the ability for the commission to reduce the mitigation requirement from 2-to-1 to 1-to-1. Actually, rather than pulling it up from my book, I suppose I could screen share it so we can all see it.
This is Commissioner Boda. I was gonna ask if you're gonna bring up the regulations.
Yeah,
Or you're gonna bring up the prudent and feasible analysis.
I'll bring up the regulation first, and then if you want to take a look at the prudent and feasible alternative analysis portion of the application, we can do that.
Okay. Why don't we, since you started with the prudent and feasible analysis, why don't we start by bringing up the part of the regs for that?
Sure. All right, so we have it kind of sprinkled in a couple of spots. So we've got section 7.7 of the regulations, specifically, I believe it's I3. Alternatives investigated which would cause less or no environmental impact to wetlands or watercourses, and why the alternatives were rejected in favor of the regulated activities proposed in the application. The applicant shall be prepared to discuss the alternatives at the meeting. Such alternatives shall be diagrammed on a separate sheet, plan, or drawing, include a written narrative, and be submitted with the application. And basically the other spot is pretty repetitive of this one. So they did provide a written narrative of alternatives considered. I don't think any of them had less impact, but there is the consideration of the fact that this is a replacement project and not a new proposed bridge. And I think that kind of, to some extent, has to be considered in regards to the restrictions of what can be considered with the project.
Sure. Well, and this is Commissioner Boda. I think the other thing is the requirements that were present when the original bridge was built versus the requirements for a bridge now have also changed, and the applicant is working within those requirements, not
Agreed. Yeah.
60-year-old or 70-year-old requirements.
They mentioned the road width requirements, the sidewalk requirement, and clearly they're not designing in excess of what they need to design to. Would you like for me to pull up the alternative analysis for review as well on the screen, or do you want to review the 2-to-1 mitigation requirements section?
Why don't we stick with the prudent and feasible analysis and just close the loop on that a little bit?
Sure, give me 1 minute. Okay. So this is a table that kind of outlines the alternatives that were presented early in the meeting, outlining the type of proposed construction or approach, the pros and cons, and kind of what the thought process was and why that was disposed of as a alternative. I don't know if you want me to go into overviewing them again. I'm hoping that as everyone looks at them, they're sounding familiar.
Well, I think that Mr. Elder had reviewed these earlier. So I don't think you necessarily need to re-review them, but maybe give folks 20 seconds to look back at that table. And it's also in the OpenGov.
Yeah, it's the project narrative in the OpenGov
page.
Record, correct.
So again, I think just to reiterate, this is Commissioner Bodo, what Jamie just said, in order for an approval to occur, the commission must acknowledge or recognize that there is not a prudent and feasible alternative, that this is the best case scenario for this application. And at some future time, were this application to be permitted, that would be something that would need to be put on the record. Do any of the commissioners have questions about those for alternatives? Well, one of them is the plan. Okay. Hearing none, Jamie, how about we go on to mitigation, and let's start with reviewing the regulations regarding mitigation.
All right, so 7.9 and 7.10. So 7.9 essentially is the condition that identifies if you're impacting wetlands or watercourses over 750 square feet, you must provide some sort of mitigation. Compensation measures should be considered in the following order of priority: restore pre-existing wetlands or watercourse, enhance degraded wetland or watercourse to improve functions and values they provide, and 3, create productive wetlands and watercourses. And then section 7.10 generally goes into, okay, you're creating this mitigation or compensation. Tell us how you're going to maintain it and ensure that it's successful. So the town of Branford in the wetland regulations also establishes a no net loss policy, essentially looking for the fact that there's no reduction in the wetland / watercourse areas in association with a project. So a couple of things to kind of point out. So we've got the state wetland / watercourse impact plan. It identifies in green the temporary areas of impact, permanent areas altered. So that's where the existing wing wells are and will be removed for the most part. And then there's a little bit of grading at the ends on the eastern side of the project. Permanent loss, a little bit at where the new wing walls are being proposed. And then we have a summary table here, which outlines permanent impacts at just under about 468 square feet, and temporary impacts at just under 2,000 square feet for a total of 2,400 square feet of impact. And then if we jump to the mitigation plan, got the permanent gain outlined where the width of the culvert is increasing. And then also kind of adjacent to those new wing walls where there's currently a bit of a gap, a shelf, if you will, adjacent to the bridge. It will become more of an open water condition and become wetland / watercourse. And then we have the mitigation area, which is a little unique in the sense that it's not proposed to be necessarily wetland per se, so much as kind of an enhancement of wetland adjacent area. It seems more likely that this northern end of this area might develop wetland properties than the swale area adjacent to the parking stalls. But I did want to point out, they also have a table on this page. Permanent wetland watercourses gained, they have as 532 square feet, which is slightly more than the permanent wetlands lost. And then for the mitigation number, they have 2,920 square feet, where they have the total impact of two wetlands of 2,400 square feet. So when you add the mitigation area and the permanent wetland / watercourse area gained, they get to that 1.44 to 1 mitigation ratio, which could be within, I just realized I never actually read that section of the regulations. So right here, since it is not possible to replace a mature and functioning wetland or watercourse with a created habitat, wetland or watercourse creation will be at a ratio of at least 2 to 1 in area. Permission may reduce on a case-by-case basis, but it cannot be reduced below a ratio of 1 to 1 in area. So I do think this is a little bit unique, like I've already said, because it's replacement of an existing bridge. And I think the considerations in meeting today's standards and the restrictions of the immediate working area can be a bit challenging.
This is Commissioner Boda. Can you go back to the map for a minute with the
Sure.
mitigation, Mr. Elder? I'm wondering, moving, I guess, to the right, you have that thin kind of mitigation area in dark orange. I'm wondering why it's where it's the wetland seed mix. I'm wondering why it stops where it does and it doesn't continue moving to the right. That would be on the south side of the bridge.
On the south side of the bridge,
To the right of the
I'm not in control right now. I think Jamie's in control
Jamie
of this.
is in control, yeah.
To the right of,
So you have, this is Commissioner Boda, you have that, the bridge itself and those wing walls.
Yep.
And you move your cursor, Jamie, to the right. You have that long stretch, this long stretch of orange. That's permanent mitigation, yes?
Yes.
So where that cursor, it ends, it looks like it ends rather abruptly. And
Yep.
I'm wondering why there? Why not further? Why not try to get a couple hundred extra feet?
So the wall, it ends where the wall ends and the cofferdam ends. But because of how the grading works out, we can naturally grade beyond that area. We can show the area within the silt fence as wetland seed mix as well, up against the edge of the road, between the SF line and the edge of road and extend that area a little bit more. But because we're installing the wall and essentially having the natural topography match the channel, so to speak, that area in orange will be allowed to stay wet and reestablish. Once you get past the orange, we're sloping back up a little steeper to the edge of the road. So it's tough to say whether or not it would operate like a wetland. Right now, it does not. So I didn't want to show that as potential area for a wetland when it's probably just going to be the edge of the road, the shelf, so the snow shelf, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yep.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Not that it makes a big difference in square footage, but I was kind of curious about this area and why that's called out. Because it appears that the wetland line is further closer to where the sidewalk is proposed, so this would probably just become an open water condition. Or, I mean, it would be an open water condition, and
yes, that's
both
all
before and after the project.
Yeah, it's going to be an open water condition based on the dark blue dash line. The dark blue dash line goes in front of the orange back to that little sliver. Now with the wall constructed, that water line is going to go up against the wall. That's why that little sliver is coming.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Just for context for commissioners and any members of the public, I do think on repair applications, so replacement repair projects, is historically when the commission has allowed deviation from that 2-to-1 requirement, kind of considering the benefits of improving the overall condition and the challenges of doing that when it's already in a tight condition. So I say that only to say that I don't think it would necessarily be inappropriate to reduce the mitigation requirement from the 2-to-1, so long as it remains above the 1-to-1 minimum requirement.
This is Commissioner Begemon. There's a lot of wetlands in the same water course.
Yep.
Is there any consideration of doing some mitigation in other areas along the shoreline of either of the ponds or something like that?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, that did come up during discussion. I think that there were some concerns about the project limits and scope of work. I would defer to the applicant to respond with any additional information.
Yeah, the project limit and scope of work could easily be modified, but I think the biggest challenge with that is sort of the general topography of this area. Most of you have been here and driven along this road. There's literally not much room between the pond and the road, particularly to the south. Then if you went around further to the east, most of the low-lying areas are already wooded and have sort of swales established if you're further to the east of the project, going around that curve all the way in. And so we did a walkthrough, and with the intent of trying to document areas that could potentially be, mitigated or show some enhancement, and there was little or no room to do that because it's basically all wetlands right now. So we would just be disturbing areas that are wetlands to then replant wetland to try to get to the 2-to-1. It was challenging to even find areas to do that in the vicinity of the project. If we wanted to go somewhere else in town to get that 2-to-1, I'm all ears to that.
This is Commissioner Boda. There's plenty of places, I'm sure, that could use some TLC.
Yeah.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I will just point out that this project currently relates to specifically the Chestnut Street right-of-way and a parcel known as 200 Chestnut Street. Not sure. Yeah, we don't have parcels on this map, but
This is Commissioner Begamon.
oh, we do.
Oh, sorry.
Within the right-of-way in this parcel here. So I'm not to say that mitigation couldn't be considered somewhere else in the supply ponds parcels, but they're not currently subject to the pending application.
Commissioner Bogeman, were you going to say something?
Commissioner Begamon, so is mitigation, would invasive treatment in the area be considered mitigation?
Enhancement. It's
Enhancement?
It's a form of enhancement.
And would that count? I mean, we know in this area there's a lot of invasive.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So that did come up during preliminary, review conversations. And I think the question becomes, does it have to be invasive species management of wetland/watercourse areas, or would general invasive management be acceptable? Because we're relating it back to wetland mitigation. So after that storm we had, the microburst, I want to say in 2020 or 2021, it opened up the park quite a bit, and since then there's a ton of burning bush, but it's not in the wetlands. So I don't know that would be considered mitigation, and also the extent of it. I mean, where do you draw the line? And if you're drawing a line, how successful will the project be? So I think the main food for thought there would be does it need to be wetland/watercourse area that's being managed? The ponds are already being managed by the Open Space Committee for some invasive through deep aquatic pesticide permit application. And there's also some treatment over by the dam to help ensure, that structure remains sound.
As
Was
John,
that the end of your
town
thought?
engineer, can I make a comment real quick?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, I just want to chime in. I think Keegan's done a great job of the presentation here and kind of explaining more of those technical aspects of the project that I couldn't speak to. Obviously we're kind of trying our best with what we've got in this area. I think splitting the difference, not intentionally, but splitting the difference between 2-to-1 and 1-to-1 mitigation. We're not aiming for the low end here, right? For 1-to-1 mitigation. So we are trying to be responsible and getting as much as we can in this area. But as Keegan said, it's pretty difficult as far as the terrain, accessibility. How much more damage are you getting to a spot to try to do some mitigation as opposed to getting to those areas that WMC is designed for mitigation. We did, as Jamie said, we did talk a lot about invasive treatment, trying to figure out where we could do something around this pond. or these two ponds is, again, I know you're all familiar with this area, and Keegan spoke to it as well. You know, we got a lot of steep slopes. We've got, you know, woody vegetation, and there's just not a lot of areas that we can find that would actually make a difference, as opposed to the areas that are proposed. So, you know, we really did we tried to get to the 2-to-1, but looking at the areas that we actually have, that we could do some mitigation, didn't make sense. You know, try to do some of that. I know that field, we don't want to touch that field. There's a history behind that field that came in discussion to see if we can somehow, you know, make a little bit of a difference within that area. But that opens up a whole other can of worms too. So I think that the plan that's been presented, you know, again, it takes into consideration all those different challenges as far as this project goes. So.
This is Commissioner Begman. The question just about the trees being taken down, the shrubs, small trees, along the roadway, the causeway where the bridge is, they're not being replaced. My understanding doesn't, right? Is that correct? There's not going to be plantings.
That is correct. That area is going to be sort of where we reestablish more watercourse based on what's shown in the southwest, a little bit on the southeast. But yeah, there's no plantings going back in that area.
It's Commissioner Begman. I've seen people catch good fish right off that road. I don't know what's going to happen without the shade. Just a comment. And I guess DEP and the fisheries people are okay with that. But often when we have a project that takes down shrubbery and trees, we see where those trees and shrubs are going to be planted. And I suppose that's the mitigation, part of the mitigation plan. Just trying to think of someplace else that could be improved.
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. I hear you. I had the same comment earlier. And it is challenging because the shelf is sloped down to the ponds is being removed through the new proposed construction method. So really kind of your options for replanting become the ends of that, and there's really not enough space on this eastern side of the road, and on the western side it's already pretty densely vegetated. Again, on the northeast side, it's what can remain is going to remain, and there really won't be space to plant additional. The one thought I had is in this area, maybe you could get, you know, a tree that's tolerant to wet, because that is in the wetland. I know that there are a couple of dead/dying trees in that area, so I don't know if maybe a tree could get introduced there. I'm not sure what kind of impact the canopy over here would have on the removed canopy over here. That's kind of where my thought process landed.
Commissioner Boda, I tend to agree, especially I was also thinking about that far corner with the kind of removal of the canopy. And I'm wondering, I saw the report from, I'm not 100% on the pronunciation. Is it Jennifer Benno?
I believe it's Benno.
So, and she's the ecologist
and botanist, I believe.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, the commission we don't create applications, right? But we do offer comments for consideration. And so that would be something that we might ask her to take another look at, you know, with changing that light that does have physical impact, has a chemical impact, and so how she might be able to account for that, and if we could get a tree in if we're taking some canopy down. Okay, so we've talked about prudent and feasible alternative analysis. We're just talking about mitigation and the commission's need to land on either the 1.4 instead of 2 is okay, or we can also potentially send the applicant back and say, listen, talk to your ecologist, see what else might be done, and if then you come back with that information, because as the engineers, we would just look for the ecologist to have give us the technical guidance on that. I did remember one additional question I had for Mr. Elder, which was, can you talk a little bit about the removal of the cofferdam and I think probably my biggest concern would be a significant amount of sediment particles being suspended as something like that is removed. And so can you talk a little bit about that and how we might ensure that water quality isn't negatively impacted in that process?
Yes, I can speak to that. So one thing that we've seen various contractors use like a turbidity control curtain that helps mitigate some of that. We can add that to the plans for installation and removal of the cofferdam, but that's the only method that I've seen done to sort of alleviate some of the suspended solids that are generated when you install and remove temporary cofferdams.
Great. Okay, and so got a couple of Jamie, were there other big topics? I wanted to do a couple of things, which is open it to the public. There's some folks here. Maybe somebody wants to make a comment or has a question. And then the other thing would be to just take a minute and look at criteria for decision beyond or in addition to the mitigation and prudent feasible analysis, and remind commissioners that while the hearing is open, we have the opportunity to ask questions, to get information. Once the public hearing is closed, we can no longer ask for additional information. We cannot receive additional information. All decisions must be made with the record that we have in place. And so did want to take a moment, one, to open the hearing to public comment if there's no other immediate questions from commissioners or from you or Mr. Elder. And then two, to then look at criteria for decision so that everybody feels okay with the information that we have, or if we need to add to the list for Mr. Elder after this meeting. So that being said, is there anyone from the public who would like to comment or has questions about this application?
Jamie Frederick in the Wetland agent. I did get a question in the chat. It says, when calculating the area of wetland, are you including the buffer? So when calculating the area of wetland impact in regards to the 2-to-1 mitigation requirement, we are calculating the impact direct impact to wetlands / watercourses, not the upland area adjacent. Certainly impacts to the upland area adjacent to the wetland or watercourse is something that the commission looks at and considers. But as far as calculating the mitigation, that's calculated based off of direct impact to wetlands and watercourses. And just to inform everyone, if you would like to talk, you can raise your hand in the Zoom meeting, or if you're having a hard time finding that, if you want to unmute and say your name, we can take public comment.
Okay, so it doesn't seem like we have any at the moment. And so, Jamie, if you would pull up criteria for decision. And so we're looking at 10.2.
Is everyone seeing section 10.2? Did I share the right screen?
And just again, to reiterate, this is a moment to, as we're looking at criteria for decision, to decide if you have additional questions or you need additional information from the applicant.
This is Commissioner Begeman, and I do have another question.
Mm-hmm.
For Mr. Elder, and it might be for the ecology soil people, but when you're making those cofferdams and you're sucking out the water and sediment and then putting it in those other, I forget they call them, those things where it settles out and you take away this siltanol, the storage, the
Pumping and settlement basins.
pumping and settlement basins, yeah. So in your experience, when you're sucking out at the water, what kind of organisms or, fish or whatever come in, and are any of those organisms somehow saved, or do they just, like, what happens? What happens to any sort of organisms, whether, depending on the time of year, there could be burrowing turtles, there could be, et cetera, et cetera. So it's in terms of the watercourse and the animals that live in the water, what happens to them?
So the installation of cofferdams, so the time of year restrictions that we have, which is included in our notes and recommendations by fisheries, is mainly geared to sort of mitigate or alleviate that concern. Burying turtles who are nesting, or fishes that are migrating or spawning during that time frame. So what the state has seen over time is by reducing or eliminating cofferdam installation during those periods, we stand the best chance of limited disturbance to wildlife. As far as when they do get to installing the temporary cofferdams and the bypass, the work and the noise generated by that operation keeps most of the wildlife away from the site to begin with, and the area that's confined. Once they confine the work with the cofferdam, there are no organisms that come inside that cofferdam that would potentially get pumped into the pumping and settlement basin. They're pretty much gone at that point. The other thing that deep and fisheries look at is, like you mentioned, turtles. So there are some sites where they require a herpetologist to do a site sweep prior to the start of construction if there was a concern for a species or anything like that during our work activity. So that was vetted out with the regulators, and as far as impacts to the species, it will be limited based on our schedule and the means and methods of the work.
Thank you.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Boda. Do you want to bring up those criteria for consideration?
Should be out.
Thank you. Okay, so I think just big picture, we're looking at one, that feasible and prudent analysis, looking for less or no environmental impact. We talked about that a minute ago. I think that the other consideration is this relationship between the short and long-term impact. And so we had the different coloring within the site plan. But I would also just remind that also Commissioner Begeman has asked a lot of thoughtful questions about sediment and erosion control. And so if there's other questions or wonderings, that now is a good time. A reversible and irretrievable loss of wetlands and water courses. The character or degree to which this interferes with safety, health, or reasonable use. And impacts of proposed regulated activity on wetland or watercourse outside the area for which the activity is proposed, and future activities. Because this is a public hearing, we're at 10.3. We remember we cannot issue a permit unless we find that this is the that those other prudent and feasible alternatives would not cause, well, that this would not cause more impact than those other versions. Talks about denial. Gone to 10.4 and 10.5. And then it goes on to just the stuff that we talked about earlier, that everything, all of the decision, all of the consideration needs to be based on the submitted material and the conversation that is on the record during the public hearing. So personal experience, outside, nobody should be having an outside conversation about it except for potentially with staff. But given that, are there other questions for Mr. Elder or about the application?
This is Commissioner Papantonis. I do have a question for Mr. Elder. You had discussed doing nothing as an alternative, but then commented that the roads in such, or the bridges in such bad shape eventually, it, I guess, would have to be abandoned. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so it's rated a 3 out of 10 now, which is one level below poor, which is a serious condition. So the qualifications for state funding are poor or worse. After you get past level 3, you go down to a 2. And at that point, it becomes a safety, well, it is a safety risk to the traveling public. Hence the reason that I mentioned that it could potentially be either closed or abandoned if you were not to replace it.
And if that were to happen, what would be the environmental impact?
The environmental impact would be minimal. It will slowly deteriorate and potentially fall in. And it'll go back to just water going through the opening, no vehicles or pedestrians being able to cross. But the environmental impacts would be minimal.
Okay.
And Commissioner Begemon again, I'm getting used to the new format of materials being presented on our .gov and stuff. Is there a sequence of construction somewhere? I was trying to find it.
No, there isn't a general sequence, mainly because we're closing the road, and the contractor's means and methods would dictate that. But I can walk you through general sequence of activities for these bridges that we've done, if you would like.
It's Commissioner Begemon. I would rather have a sequence written so that the contractors, I mean, I know that from what you just said, there's generally a sequence that would be followed, but let's be sure it goes in the right series of steps, the right sequence. So typically we have something written about a sequence of activity, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, we can certainly add that. That's
So this is, yeah, this is Commissioner Boda. I think to that, so if we, been trying to kind of keep a list of the homework for Mr. Elder. We can call it that. And so I've got the construction sequence of construction.
So there's a sequence of construction on the Hadley Water Plan.
Thought that there was something somewhere.
What sheet was that?
Sheet 11.
Okay, we'll cross that one out. And maybe Commissioner Begeman can take a look and see if there's any gaps. The earlier in the discussion with Commissioner Sotomayor, you talked about there being a couple of cofferdam type and construction. And so perhaps you can go and help narrow that down. We talked about adding turbidity control curtains for the installation and removal of the cofferdam. Am I going at an okay speed?
Yep.
Okay. Clarifying what that seed mix is for the swale planting. I have a note about the removal of existing pavement, and just some additional detail to be added about the timing of that material being removed off of site.
Okay.
And then lastly, going back to Ms. Benno, about if there is some way to do some additional enhancements, recognizing that the shade and the lighting regime is going to change with the removal of those canopy from the roadway, and how we might enhance potentially that so the eastern side. Jamie had it up on the map a little earlier. It was on the far side of where you are. Or if she can, with her training and her wisdom, can offer other enhancements.
Okay.
Is there anything that I have missed from this discussion this evening? Yeah, I see a hand. Ms. Sandberg.
This is Olivia Sandberg, Commissioner Boda. I think you mentioned something about an infiltration system.
So I had asked, thank you. I had asked if the swale was going to be used for infiltration Mr. Elder had indicated that with the high water table, it seemed unlikely, but if you would be so kind as to take a look at, where we can infiltrate, it's always ideal to infiltrate if we can a little bit. But that would mean confirming the infiltration rates or possibility, or if maybe you'd had to add in some stone or sand beneath.
This is Commissioner Begman. I looked at the construction sequence. It doesn't have anything in the sequence about the mitigation and the planting, that timing of it. So maybe that's on a separate sheet.
You're Mr. Elder, you're muted.
No, it does not have. That's in the standard specification, the 818. It specifies planting periods. I believe in the spec it talks about October 15th for planting, but because it's a state job. All the planting requirements are per the erosion sedimentation guidelines and the DOT planting, DOT and DEP planting recommendations, which are in the 818 and part of the specs for the project. I could send that over as well too.
This is Commissioner Boda. Is there anything else? Obviously, this application is going to stay open for this evening. But is there anything else, as I'm sure if there's anything else that Mr. Elder needs to address, it would be better to have it now.
Commissioner Goklowski, I mean, we know how old the current bridge is. It's quite old. Mr. Elder, you didn't say the life expectancy of the new bridge. What is that going to be?
So the new bridge life expectancy is between 75 and 100 years.
Far past our lifetimes.
Yes. The old bridge was constructed in 1940, so it's 84, 85 years old, something like that, and it's getting to its end. Yeah.
It's been getting to its end for quite some time.
Yes, it has.
This is Commissioner Boda. So why don't we look at dates? So I'm assuming we're not having a meeting on Thanksgiving. It's a safe assumption, yeah?
Correct. The next regularly scheduled meeting is December 11th.
December 11th. Mr. Elder, is that a reasonable amount of time for you to be able to address these open issues?
Oh, that should be no problem.
Excellent. You've been on the hot seat for almost 2 hours. You're doing great.
This is still a cool seat. No, we're excited to get something that's permitted and approved for the town, that you can have a infrastructure that you don't have to worry about, and that's environmentally economical, so to speak. So whatever you guys need, we're here to facilitate.
Great.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. For the record, on the 11th, I have promised my time from 6 to 7 at the Blackstone Library to perform for some Christmas event that they're having there. So I will be back in front of my computer somewhere about 7:15 to 7:30. So I just want to let everybody know that I will be there, but I'm not going to be on time.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Golkowski. So unless there's anything else that Mr. Elder needs to know, I would be looking for a motion to continue this public hearing to December 11th, please.
This is Commissioner Begman. I'll make a motion. Oh, I don't have the name of it. That we continue the hearing for the 200 Chestnut Street Bridge repair. 20 BRI 251001, I believe, to 121125.
There a second?
Commissioner Goklowski, I'll second that.
Okay, we'll take a roll call. Any questions on the motion?
This Commissioner Papantonis, I have one question because Commissioner Golkowski said he will be late. And I'm a little concerned to make sure that we have enough commissioners present that would be able to vote at the next, unless we start the hearing a little bit later than 7 o'clock.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. We can look at the agenda when we schedule it and see if maybe there's something quick we can put beforehand. So that way he's present for the full public hearing.
And so long as the chair is, this is Commissioner Boda, the Commissioner Basserman, Chairman Basserman is back. He can watch the video, and he's usually here.
Yeah, any commissioner not present can watch the recording and state such on the record and participate.
Okay, so Commissioner Begeman,
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Glukowski,
Commissioner Goklowski, aye.
Commissioner Papantonis,
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Sotomayor,
Commissioner Sotomayor, aye.
and Commissioner Boda, aye. Motion carries. So, Mr. Elder, enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll see you in December.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Okay, so let's see. Jamie indicated that Silver Street has been tabled. So moving on, IW 25-2, 3 Pepperwood is withdrawn. We have no applications for receipt. And that brings us to other business, 71 Midwood Road correspondence. Jamie, do you want to start us off?
Sure, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So, as acting chair Boda pointed out, this is correspondence. At this time, it's not a violation or an application. Generally speaking, I've identified 3 main concerns that are raised in the correspondence: a drainage pipe, a shed, and a compost pile. I have reviewed the materials. I have been out to the sites and seen the item, the infrastructure. Based on my review, it appears the pipe was installed around 1980. I made that determination based on the assessor field card, and testimony from property owner of 24 Stone Street. Current shed is within the 100-foot upland review area. It appears that it was installed around 2015. It is shown on a 2015 survey that was reviewed as part of a building permit for raising the house. I did not find a permit for the shed. And then the compost pile, based on testimony that I have been in receipt of, it sounds that the composting has been ongoing since around 1985, when property owner, or since around 1985. So, long story short, for enforcement action, burden of proof is on the agency. At this time, I have not taken any enforcement action. It is correspondence for the commission, so I'd like to open it up for commission if you have any questions, concerns, feedback.
So this is Commissioner Boda. So is the primary issue that we're looking at the development, the the installation of a shed within 100 feet of a wetland without a permit? Is that the primary?
That's part of it, and the pipe isn't real. So there's a pipe that discharges directly to the wetland area. So the concern there is whether that discharge is impacting the wetlands. From my research, it appears that there was previously an open drainage ditch that conveyed water to where the pipe currently discharges.
But this is Commissioner Boda, but this pipe has been there since 1980?
That's my best guess based on when the garage was constructed. That I believe I'm making assumptions here because I don't have a lot of information. I couldn't find anything about when the pipe was installed or its extent. But based on where the open ditch was relative to the garage, and where the garage is situated now, my best guess is that it was installed around 1980.
Okay, so this is Commissioner Boda. I don't think that I can recall an instance in which the commission rather has taken action on any. It's hard to say with a straight face, right? Anything like it's 40 years old. Yeah, I can't. I mean, maybe the shed, but even that's 10 years old at this point. And you said it's within 100 feet, it seems.
It's within the upland review area for sure. It's probably within. I would say it's within 50 feet without having measured it recently. It's probably closer than 50 feet. A minute.
Okay. So this is interesting. It's definitely not a typical thing that the commission would see. I see that we have a hand from Miss Esposito, and I see that Town Attorney Anaskovich is here, which is always a treat. And so I'm just curious if, before I ask Miss Esposito, if Mr. Anaskovich would like to, has anything to add about this unique situation with a 40-year-old pipe.
Thank you, Chairman Boda. It's always a treat to see you as well. I am here mainly to answer questions that the commission might have as it relates to legal issues related to what Jamie has presented. I will tell you that in my experience, I concur with you. I have not found any evidence of the commission taking action on something as old as as this. And so I concur that this is a unique situation. I would also add one piece of information, which I think the commissioners are aware of, because the memorandum of decision was put into your materials. There's currently an order of the Superior Court granting by adverse possession ownership of all three of those encroachments, if you will, the drain pipe, the shed, and the compost corral, in addition to an underground fence and a stone wall. The court has, the Superior Court has granted ownership to the defendant in that case, in an action brought by the plaintiff, Ms. Esposito, who's here with us tonight. And I understand that action is on appeal. And so to the extent that the commission determines that enforcement action is warranted in this case, we would have to take a look fairly carefully at who in fact we are issuing the notice of violation to, given the situation that we have legally at this moment. Because as you know, from other situations that we've had in town, the regulations allow for notices of violation and cease and correct orders to be issued against anyone who constructs or maintains a violation. So I offer that up by way of information at this point. Happy to answer any questions. But short of that, I don't find any pertinent legal issues at play here at this moment that suggest I hold forth in any way.
Thank you so much.
This is Commissioner Begeman. Can I just
Yeah, please.
ask? We're inland wetlands and watercourses. There's a shed that might be in the Hunter Upland Review that maybe didn't get a permit. Other than that, is there a current impact to the wetlands, a detrimental impact to the wetlands that's happening, Jamie, that you noticed when you're out there? Because I'm wondering what our purpose is here.
So Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. I just measured based off of that 2015 as-built survey. The shed appears to be about 40 feet away from the wetland, and the compost area is between the shed and the wetland. I mean, through the process of composting, there could be some nutrient impacts to the wetland. Whether or not composting is an as of right activity, I would defer to the commission to make that determination. And then the concern has been raised that the pipe is detrimentally impacting the wetland area. I don't have clear evidence one way or the other. The wetland delineation that I have on file is, I believe, it's on a survey from 2015. I don't have the wetland report. I just have the delineation on the survey. I'm looking through the notes right now. To see if I can find when the wetland delineation was done. I'm not immediately seeing that information, but
Jamie, this is Commissioner Boda. What is the pipe draining from? Like, what is it? What water?
Based on the, so I'll screen share the survey real quick. Based on the survey, it appears to be connected to a catch basin within Stone Street. So here's Stone Street to catch basins, and the pipe appears to originate from that catch basin and discharge to the wetland area. And you can see the garage structure that overlies it, which is why I am inferring that the pipe was probably installed around 1980. That's when the permit for the garage was noted on the assessor's field card.
So, and this is Commissioner Boda. So the wetland regs are not much older than 1980.
I believe it's 1974 is when the commission was formed, and they don't know if the regs were written in 74 or if, I think they were probably 75.
So, I mean, I'm wondering if that was, I mean, it wouldn't have necessarily been an inappropriate thing to do if they're trying to convey stormwater and return it to a wet area. I'm totally inferring, but I mean, they're moving water to water. Just a thought.
This is Commissioner Begeman. So sounds like we're looking at whether this is something for us to consider at all, given how old all of these constructed things are. And then the second thing to me is, does the commission sometimes take these issues that are brought up, like a pipe that's discharging directly to the wetlands, that probably wouldn't be correct construction now. I mean, what do we do with that? You know, and there are two neighbors involved. Does the commission say two neighbors talk to each other and figure something out? I mean, I'm wondering what our role is here.
Ms. Esposito, I do see your hand. I think before we talk to the property owners, it's really important that the commission wrap its brain around what our jurisdiction is, because before we can then hear additional information, we just have to get our feet under us for a minute.
But the pipe that we're talking about is the town's pipe. So the property owners, it's not between two property owners. This pipe is discharging from the town onto my property. No easements, no permits, nothing. So it's not a dispute between two property owners. It's really just, it's coming onto my property. And I'm sorry I barged it in, but it was getting a little, you guys were going in a direction that I wasn't intended. So it's an 18-inch culvert that's flooding the property. And I've put in the record, I have video of it just pouring in, and it has done a number on the land, and it continues to. So, okay, now you know what I needed to say.
All right. So this is Commissioner Papantonis, and I have a question for Attorney Aniskovic. If this is the town's pipe, at the very least, would the town have? Some of everybody's frozen, so I don't know if anybody's hearing me or not. But at the very least, wouldn't the town have at least a prescriptive easement that? That's my question.
Oh, okay. To my knowledge, I mean, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no record of the town having installed that pipe. There's no denying the drain pipe is connected to the line in the road that belongs to the town. But there's no, I have not seen information that would corroborate that the town installed that pipe. Am I wrong, Jamie?
Jamie Frederick in the Wetland Agent. I'm not aware of anything that indicates the town installed the pipe. I'm not aware of anything that indicates who installed the pipe.
All right. So, but let me go back to my question then. Then whoever installed the pipe and whoever owns the pipe or you created this situation with 40 years, 45 years of history, isn't there some kind of a prescriptive easement or something that's been created here?
I don't, the Commissioner Papantonis, I don't believe, well, first of all, we haven't looked at the question of whether or not the town could acquire over the passage of time an easement on a pipe it didn't install. Typically, those easements are for purposes of maintaining something that the town installed. But in this particular case, the threshold issue is who installed that pipe and when, and that of course then raises the issue of timing and its relationship to the passage of the regulations. The town engineer informed me in a meeting about this some time ago that the drain pipe is made of a substance and is such that the town would never today approve that type of pipe for that kind of drainage. So there's a lot to suggest that this is not the town's pipe. We would have to look at the question of whether or not, if a private landowner constructs a drain pipe, connects it to a town line, and time passes, the town acquires some ownership interest by easement. We'd have to look at that. If you want us to look at that, we could look at that. But I'm not. It's not striking me off the top of my head as something I've ever seen before.
So then we just take it out. If it's not the town's, then we just take it out. I'm sorry, Esposito. Sorry.
Thank you.
James, Commissioner Papantonis, is there, if hypothetically speaking, this pipe would be were to be removed, what kind of impact would it have on the wetlands in the upland review area?
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. So, I mean, it would be activity within 100 feet of the wetland. So theoretically, it should get reviewed, permitted. I think, is everyone seeing
Yes.
map
Yeah.
1245 from the land records? So this is what the property looked like approximately prior to the house at 24 Stone Street being developed. So it shows a drainage ditch. So I mean, that's a hard question to address because I don't know what the proposed mechanism would be of how far back you remove it. Do you then keep the open drainage ditch to where the pipe outlet currently is? Do you want to create more wetland? Like, I mean, I think that kind of gets into the we don't design projects. And there's, kind of a lot of different options. It seems to me the water's always gone in that direction.
So this is Commissioner Boda. I think just from my perspective, this is so old. And without better historical context, documented context, it seems like if someone wants to disconnect or to remove the pipe, then they would need to put in an application to do that, or petition the town to do that. I just don't. I'm not aware of what mechanism we have to go back to 1980. Like if we went back to every action that was taken without a permit, I think that we would be completely overrun. Not to encourage people to do things without applications, but I think going back to 1980 and 1985 seems like not a good strategy for us. I'm wondering what other commissioners are thinking.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. Number one, I think the time passed is a very important issue. But the other important issue, you said that this is currently in the court system, this particular matter.
Yes, that's correct.
So it's really, from my short time on the commission, when something is tied up in court, we kind of don't act on it because we really can't act on it because the court will supersede our ruling. Isn't that in fact true?
Well, in this particular Commissioner, I'm sorry, Chairman Boda, if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner Goklowski, in this case,
Mr. Anaskovich.
Yeah,
Say your name.
Yes, Bill Anaskovich. In this particular case, the issue before the court is ownership of the drain pipe, and among other things, right? If assuming the town wanted the drain pipe removed, it would have to establish whose consent it needed to remove the pipe. And right now, you've got a Superior Court order that says the drain pipe by adverse possession belongs to the defendant, a decision that the plaintiff has appealed. So until there's a final judgment rendered in that case, and we have a definitive statement with respect to who owns the drain pipe, it's difficult to know how the town would proceed and against whom, without jeopardizing anything going forward. So prudence would dictate that at a minimum that we wait for a final judgment as to who owns what, and meanwhile try to collect as much information as we can about impact on the wetland and all the other information that you would need, as Chairman Boda has pointed out, to document, provided that the commission was interested in addressing something of this age. So
this is Commissioner Goklowski. It's also hard to try to address something when we don't know whose ownership and what the court is going to rule. And so until that actually comes to fruition, I don't know how we can act on anything or point any figures. And I know Ms. Esposito is very upset over this whole matter. She's very passionate about her property. We know that already from her visiting us in the past, and I respect her for that. So, and I know she's in a debacle. But until we can show ownership or prove ownership, I don't know how we can act, because we wouldn't even know who to violate at this stage of the game.
Thank you, Commissioner Glukowski. Are there other commissioners that agree or feel differently that would like to say anything?
This is Commissioner Papantonis. I agree with Commissioner Glukowski that we don't have anything we can act on at this point.
This is Commissioner Begeman. I would agree that we need to wait, find out about ownership. And if it does come back to us, I think that there would have to be, in terms of the information that we would want, is an expert's evaluation of whether the discharge from that pipe is damaging the wetlands in any sort of way.
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. I agree with Commissioner Begeman. It's hard to tell what type of impact that drainage pipe has on wetlands. I do agree with the other commissioners as well, and Mr. Anaskovic, sort of delaying the decision-making process until a final determination has been made on ownership of those encroachments. But I would personally like to do a site visit here. I'm not sure if that's something, Jamie, that is possible at this location before the final determination is made.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Generally, the commission only does site visits for applications.
Is it possible that this will turn into some type of enforcement action?
Well, I mean, that's kind of why it's on the agenda before the commission.
Before you guys, I'm sorry, it's Lorraine Esposito at 71 Midwood. Before you make your decision, I really would please let me help inform you, because you're going down a path that isn't what I'm actually protesting or my complaint is about. So I would like to be able to help you understand the situation and what I'm actually asking for you to do. And it's gotten sideways.
This is Commissioner Boda. I think, Ms. Esposito, we can give you a couple of minutes to get your thoughts out, but I would also just have you keep in mind that if you were here at the beginning of the meeting, the commission has a very narrow purview, and while we have regulatory authority, it is a very narrow window that we work within. And so while as property owners and as fellow community members, we may empathize, the law may not give us the latitude to do what you're asking. So I would just ask you to keep your comments brief and tied to direct impact to wetland.
Absolutely. And it's Lorraine Esposito, 71 Midwood. The chief concern that I have is that there is a storm drain, an 18-inch metal pipe that is discharging storm drain water onto my property. It goes through 24 Stone and onto my property. It is a town-owned pipe, according to the engineer, because I did reach out and ask about that. There were two pipes protruding under the ground. They're under the ground, And once the vegetation cleared, they were visible. I got clarity from the town engineer, Mr. Ortiz at the time, who said that the PVC pipe was not the town's, and that's the one that it appears as you are talking about when you're talking about the legal matter between the Ravens and I. The PVC pipe is still up in the air on who owns that, but Mr. Ortiz determined or declared that pipe, the one next to it, the 18-inch pipe that you see in the site survey, is the town's property, and he has told me I am not allowed to interfere with it. So while we can't find who put it in, I'm in a pickle because I can't take it out either. And it absolutely inundates the property with stormwater on rain events, but it is also tied into sump pumps and gutters along the pathway up the whole Stone Street. And so even in dry times, there's water there all the time. There's no mitigating anything. Sediment is in there, runoff, soil erosion, you name it, I got it. And I am asking the commission, regardless of when that pipe was put in, the conditions that are being, the condition it creates is adversely impacting the wetlands. So that's really the big concern I have. The issues about violations, potential violations from my abutting neighbor were not necessarily confined to the shed and the compost. I understand those things we're slugging it out in the courts. Got it. But there are many other issues that I raise that do not get addressed. And I felt there was a disproportionate response to a one-sentence complaint that he levied against me that resulted in an immediate notice of violation and a whole bunch of hoops that everyone had to jump through. When I raise that as a disparity, I still don't get any assistance in understanding the process. And maybe I'm not fully aware what the process is, but I don't get a response. And so it feels like there might be a disparity. But for this meeting, it's really all about the town pipe and having that it has no easements, it has no permits, it is just dumping copious amounts of water onto my land. And it is impacting it. Now, that's what I present to you, and now hopefully it's cleared up the situation, and whether or not you come out and look at it, I think that's actually warranted.
Thank you. Mr. Rabin, again, if you could keep your comments brief and narrow.
You're muted.
Make sure that you state your name for the record and your address, please.
This is Daniel Rabin. We're the abutting property to 71 Midwood at 24 Stone Street. So the shed that I have a few comments. I will keep them definitely brief. The shed that you mentioned was in fact installed in 2015. The predecessor to that with the same footprint was installed in 1998. For current purposes of the wetlands, we store absolutely no chemicals, no paints, nothing that could possibly interfere or contaminate the wetlands. We have an electric mower and the batteries are in the garage. So there's really nothing in there that could impact the wetlands. The pipe is a little bit complicated. It was installed by the previous owner who built the house. He was a drainage expert. That's what he did professionally, David Massey. And what he explained to us was that he put in a series of some stone drainage aids around the house so that it would be particularly well drained. I don't know whether that pipe going into the wetlands is part of the underground drainage system, but I strongly suspect that it is because the pipe points directly to the middle of the house. There's a question raised about what would be the impact of removing the storm drain pipe. And during the large storms, Sandy, Irene, Stone Street was completely flooded. And I would offer to the commission that if that drain pipe were in fact removed, which I think is a terrible idea for many reasons, that the threshold for flooding the street would be lowered, and even mild rain events would be flooding the street. So that's my comment on that. The other thing is that the pipe, as someone mentioned, the pipes have been in the ground since we moved into the house 40 years ago. We've done absolutely nothing to change them or to impact them or to add or subtract, absolutely nothing. The only thing that I'm aware of that was done was the town came out and dredged out or had a backhoe and cleaned out the drainage ditch. So that kind of, makes me believe that it is part of the town property and that they do have an easement to access that pipe. As far as Ms. Esposito's complaint that we are ruining the wetland, I see absolutely no basis in fact for that. For the past 40 years, the wetland has been thriving. We've put absolutely no chemicals. We don't use fertilizer or weed killer, absolutely nothing on our yard. We're very conscious about the environment. So if there has been a change in the drainage ditch and in the sediment, whatever, I would look to Ms. Esposito's activities, such as removing all the leaves from the forest. There's a dam so that the drainage ditch is filled up with water now when during heavy rains. So it's I think we're looking in the wrong place if there's a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Reben.
Thank you for hearing me.
Yes. So, I think the commission has indicated its deep tentativeness, given the timeline. I think, Jamie, if someone within and Olivia, somebody within the town offices can see a little bit more about the history of this pipe, who the ownership, if the town has been maintaining it. I would anticipate some of the additional water would just be because our climate is changing, and so these rainfalls are getting more intense. I don't know that any one person would be impacting them that way, but perhaps that is the starting place for us. And unless the commission
This is Lorraine Esposito of 71 Midwood. I'm going to save you all. This is obviously the issue is it needs to be further defined so that the commissioners can understand what it is I'm actually asking for you to do. So what I'll do is I will prepare a complaint or raise my concerns very narrowly as it relates to the town pipe. Nothing with my rear neighbor, because unless he's going to say that he put it in, which he just said he didn't. So it will just be a very narrow purview, and then you'll look at it, and then you'll put me on the agenda in the future, because it's you can't. I gave you all of the freedom of information efforts that I have gone through to find the origin and the track of the water and all of that. It's all in the Dropbox. So if you're not able to do something tonight, and I absolutely get that it feels a little dicey, not a problem. I will come back to you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Jamie, we've got a direction?
I believe so.
Okay, great. So let's move on to other business, the annual meeting schedule for 2026. And again, we're hitting 9:30. So if we can be really expeditious. Good night, Mr. Yanukovych. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, folks.
All right. Bear with me a minute. So everyone should have gotten a copy of the proposed meeting schedule for next year. I don't know why I can't disable my. So generally speaking, since COVID and meeting remotely every year, I like to raise the question of, does the commission want to meet remotely or do you want to meet in person? And then also we have started meeting twice a month rather than just once a month. So I also like to raise the question of, do we still want to have 2 meetings a month or do we want to go back to only having 1 meeting a month? Historically, the commission has met on the second Thursday of every month, and the commission increased that to the second and fourth Thursday, with the exception of November and December, where there's still only 1 meeting a month. Before you should see the draft schedule for next year. If anyone sees a conflict with the holiday, please let us know. We can reschedule or remove that meeting date. So again, yeah.
So then the heart of the issue, and can we get a quick pulse from the commission? So first, Zoom, not Zoom.
Zoom.
It's one for Zoom.
So I'll throw out real quick benefits of the meeting in person. I think the meetings generally move a little bit faster. Everyone's encouraged to be able to go home. Some people find it easier from the public. Benefits of Zoom, anyone can do it from anywhere. If you're traveling, commissioners can still participate. Some people find it easier to participate via Zoom because it's easier to see the site plan.
Yep.
That's my quick 2-second summary.
Okay. Commissioner Glukowski has said Zoom. Other strong opinions?
Zoom. Begamon.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. I'm open to either or. If we were to meet in person, would it be somewhere in Branford, maybe at the town hall?
Has to be in Branford. It'd be like maybe the community center, something like that, or the fire station, firehouse.
Probably would have to be at the firehouse because they have the cameras set up.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Currently, with the renovations at the police station, it probably would be the community house, but we usually try and have a meeting room penciled in somewhere in case there's a large public hearing or something and the commission decides to hold a particular meeting in person. So even if you say you want to meet remotely, we do try and hold out something for in-person-ish.
Commissioner Papantonis, this is Commissioner Boda, do you have a preference?
Don't hate me. My preference is, Commissioner Papantonis, my preference is in person.
I don't hate you.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Sotomayor. If we met in person, would we have access, internet access, technology capabilities where we would meet?
You would have internet access. You would, as far as I'm aware and based on past practice, if you wanted a device, you would have to bring your own device.
Yeah. This is Commissioner Boda. I am also a strong proponent of Zoom. It's lovely to see y'all in person. But the times that these meetings end, it's really, really helpful to be home. I get up exceptionally early. And I do like the ability to see the screen, see everything right here. Those little maps that the applicants hold up, nobody can see them, so it's a little dicey. Jamie, would it make sense to just put out like a quick little Survey Monkey or something like that to actually get a real poll?
My only concern might be that we would be putting ourselves out for the first meeting. We have to have, let me just double check dates real quick. we need an answer before the December 11th meeting, or else we wouldn't be able to have a regularly scheduled meeting January 8th.
Well, so if you put out a quick little survey, do you know that you've seen those, like the doodle poll?
Well, I guess if we're happy with the dates and we're just finalizing the location, I suppose that could possibly be done through a doodle poll. Yeah.
Yeah. That way everybody's got to say so, even if they're not here.
Since we are kind of split.
Does that sound like a plan, folks? I'm going to take silence as a yes. And then the second question was about the second, doing two Thursdays or one Thursday. Feelings, thoughts?
The one meeting a month was becoming pretty taxing on time. Our meetings were extremely much longer. They're still long, but at least we get what we get accomplished, and it's not carried over to the next meeting.
Folks agree? Have other ideas? This is Commissioner Boda. I tend to agree. I don't love 2 meetings a month, but I do love that not being in meetings until 11 o'clock at night. So I would say stick to the 2, maybe add like no July 9th meeting or something, you know what I mean? Just get rid of one of those July meetings because it's summer, but that's just me. You could do a 2-for-1 special with that doodle poll. But you need the dates.
I would like to have the dates confirmed.
Does anybody?
And there's also the possibility, if you want, we can make a note for June 25th to, make a decision whether or not to cancel that July 29th meeting, or we can just cross it off now if the commission wants to do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just put a note for in May or whatever.
And the benefit of doing that is if we receive an application, it kind of keeps the process moving for that individual.
Does anybody strongly object to 2 meetings a month?
No.
Thank you for that decisiveness. Okay, it looks like 2 meetings a month. And Jamie will send out a doodle poll about the location. That brings us to BRI 25-1 Jefferson.
Real quick, I don't know 100%, but can we just get a motion to approve with the location to be confirmed via doodle poll and reported back on December 11th?
Okay, can somebody make a motion?
It's Commissioner Bergman. Can somebody, there's just a little error, typo, whatever, in the meeting dates. I mean, it says no second meeting in December, which is true because it would be the 24th. It's the day before Christmas.
We can make that modification.
Commissioner Bergman, I'll make a motion that we approve the 2026 Inland Wetlands Commission meeting dates as presented in the meeting on November 13th.
This is Commissioner Gukowski. I'll second that motion.
Okay. We're going to take a quick vote. Commissioner Begeman?
Commissioner Bergman, aye.
Commissioner Gukowski?
Commissioner Gukowski, aye.
Commissioner Papantonis?
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Sotomayor?
Commissioner Sotomayor, aye.
And Commissioner Boda, aye. All right. Speeding along, Jamie, BRI 25-1 Jefferson Road.
Proposal was to install a rail fence along the sidewalk above a culvert for safety reasons. Only ground disturbances. The poles for the fence, I approved it administratively.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. And then the correspondence and announcements, Khaki Wick is on Saturday.
I sent an email out to everyone who registered earlier today, just as a reminder. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact the office tomorrow.
Great. And then just I will toss out a reminder that public hearing, please do not pick up information from somewhere else. If you have any questions, talk to Jamie. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Before I make a motion to adjourn, thank you for chairing, Ms. Boda. And I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion. Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.